Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Orphaned Secrets. Episode 9. Chapter 52. William's POV. When I saw the crest of the Lunar Kingdom imprint itself onto Alexa's forehead, I knew what was coming. I had everyone take a step back, hoping that distancing ourselves from her would prevent her powers from emitting onto us, but I was wrong. We were too late, and I soon found myself, as well as the others, being blinded by the aura of Alexa's hidden power. I had hoped that I could block my senses to prevent myself from being sucked into the vortex that would send us back in time, but I was wrong yet again. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back in a time that I wish I could let go of but never could. A day where I questioned everything that I ever did and wondered if the choices I made were for the greater good or not. A day that I sometimes wish I could take back, knowing that I cannot. William. I heard someone shout. A melodious voice that I will never forget. I knew that it wasn't geared towards me but, rather, towards the me that I needed to stay hidden from. I quickly ran into a room that I knew would be empty. A room that was commissioned to belong to an incredibly special someone that would arrive in due time. William Curvino. Where are you? I heard the voice that I miss so much. Heaven. I'm right here. I heard my own voice from many years ago calling out. I knew I couldn't stay hidden for long. My past self would eventually know of my presence since this was the time when my powers would be at their peak. There you are, darling. Why are you so difficult to find? Heaven, I've been right here, in the exact same spot where you left me 2 hours ago, my past self replied to her. Do not be a smart aleck with me, William, she snapped at me. I could just picture myself giving her a look of pure love and adoration. After all, she was my mate. My first mate. My first true love. My queen. My Luna. My apologies, my dear, Heaven. How can I be of service? You can use your powers to calm down your offspring that is wreaking havoc in my womb. Heaven, you know as well as I do that I am not permitted to use my powers for personal gain. Let alone for your personal gain, I scolded her. I heard her huff in annoyance. Heaven was Egyptian royalty back in 1000 AD, and she was a rare beauty. Golden skin, ravenous black hair that was straight and styled in a short, blunt cut with yellow eyes like that of a canary, and P.S. so plump that you couldn't help but want to kiss her. You always say that, William. A little mind control wouldn't hurt, she said. I could hear the smile in her voice. I shook my head at her tone. Same old Heaven. Heaven, I've told you once, I have told you 1,000 times. I cannot keep using my powers. If the pack finds out that I have powers, it would be disastrous, I said to her. You are such a worrywart, my love. So what if people find out you're the most powerful of the land? They should be honored to have someone like you as their alpha and leader. I know I am honored to have you. I continued to listen to this conversation. It was one that played in my head over and over again, and I would forever remember it as the final loving conversation I had with Heaven. Little did I know that someone we both trusted was listening in and would betray us all. My best friend, Ramsey, or Ram as I called him. I trusted him with my life, and the life of Heaven and our unborn pup. But he did the unthinkable. He spied on us during this moment, and I had no idea since I spent the entire time in my position as alpha controlling my power to read minds. All because I didn't want to disrespect my pack. I didn't want them to think that I would abuse the gifts that I was blessed with. But, alas, it was all for nothing. Ram became paranoid, and his paranoia got the best of him. He went to the Council of Elders and expressed his concerns about what he knew. In doing so, his psychosis became their own, which soon spilled over into the pack itself. Ram and the council wanted to strip me of my powers by using dark magic. Heaven retaliated at the betrayal, but it was all in vain. Ram overpowered her and beat her within an inch of her life, his own Luna. The beating cost us our pup. A daughter. Stillborn because of that *ts fixation that I was the enemy. The loss of our pup was what drove me over the edge, and I killed Ram without even batting an eye. I used him as an example in front of everyone, and that proved his accusations against me. It was then I knew it was what he planned all along. He wanted me to lose my control, to prove his paranoia was justified. He wanted our kind to fear me, the powerful primordial. I knew that there was no going back after that. No one would ever trust me again. So, I did what any disgraced alpha would do. I denounced myself, and I proceeded in rejecting heaven too. I still had no idea that I was immortal at the time. I had hoped that going rogue would eventually get me killed, but, after allowing others to attack me, but I realized then that I couldn't die. I ended up living the next several hundreds of years alone, passing from one pack to another as I heard mentions of the very few of my kind that was born throughout time. I trained them, taught them to harness their power and control it, and to never lose control of their anger the way I did. Unfortunately, it was all for nothing. Regardless of what I did, my kind was never accepted. And someone had even used their powers for personal gain. The females that Alessandro took and destroyed, they were the ones that I really felt sympathy for. Even my few years at the kingdom as a guard was all for nothing, for yet again, I had failed. Will you stop with this pity party? I heard a voice that I knew all too well. Without even looking up, I questioned why she was here, inside my memories. Why are you punishing yourself? Who says that I'm punishing myself? Look at where we are. William, Alexa's power is only supposed to take you to the time where you're the most conflicted. You had already been alive for thousands of years at this point, yet you question your choices on this very day. Why? Are you seriously asking me that, Selene? This day was when my entire life changed. My best friend and Beta betrayed me. I rejected my true mate and we lost our one and only child before she was even born. I proved Ramsey's allegations true. I killed him in cold blood and in front of everyone who had already started to fear me. I should have known, but I didn't. I turned off my power of mind reading and look where it got me. So, you blame yourself for what happened? All because you think that this one day where you and Heaven were talking about your powers is what made Ramsey paranoid and led to his betrayal. I just looked at her as if everything was obvious. Oh, William, you silly old man. You're just as naive as ever. This had nothing to do with you being a primordial. Ramsey was dead set on betraying you from the day you approached him to be your beta. What? But of course, you had turned off your power of thought transference and so you never knew. That wasn't your fault. That was you being you. Ramsey was weak, broken, and had no confidence in himself as beta. His only confidence was his ego, which was why he wanted to overthrow you. He thought he could do better. However, it was this day that allowed him to come up with a different plan to dethrone you from your position as alpha. By turning those who looked up to you against you, purely out of fear. And they were too busy thinking about what you could do to them rather than what you could do for them. None of that matters now, Selene. What's done is done. Really? Then why are we here? You obviously still haven't let it go. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of an answer, so I countered with another question. Why are you here? I enunciated. Deflection as always. Very well, I'll entertain your curiosity, William. I am here because it is time for you to take your place in the kingdom. Not this again, I grunted. William, you have been in the mortal realm for over 7,000 years. Yes, you were needed when the others were born and required actual direction and guidance, but you're not needed here anymore. I'm not? Then what about Sarin? And Samson? They're my blood too. No, they're not, she said matter-of-factly. I looked at her as if she was an extraterrestrial being. Sarin needed you at first, yes, but Samson doesn't. He has his mother to direct him down the right path. But you, my dear friend, you're needed where you can guide the future of your children from afar, the way I do. Reveal yourself to them occasionally in their dreams or their memories, and even in real life to give him a good nudge, she said with a little too much enthusiasm. They are not my children, the way you call all werewolves, Selene. They are my descendants. No, they're not. My goodness, how can I explain this so that you can actually understand? She asked as she placed her hands on her H.P.S. in an exaggerated manner, as one would do while being frustrated with a child. William, Sarin is the mother of all primordials. Her bloodline will continue it, not yours. Yours never has. They were your kind, but not your descendants. Yes, you are technically the forefather being the first of your kind, as I am being the first werewolf. But only those born in the kingdom are of my blood. And what about Olivia? Am I just supposed to reject her for a second time and leave her high and dry? Of course not. What do you think I am, heartless? I had an agreement with the Wiccan goddess, Miranda, and she allowed me to mate you with Olivia. I'm also surprised that you don't know more about Olivia and where she comes from. What are you talking about? Olivia isn't just a light witch. If she were, I wouldn't need Miranda's blessing, she said and gave me a look. I didn't need to read her mind to know what she was insinuating. Do you mean to tell me that Olivia is from the kingdom? She is Miranda's daughter. Yes. My eyes bulged out of my head for the first time in an awfully long time. You need to take your place in the kingdom so that you and Olivia can guide your children from afar, while Sarin and her bloodline guide them in the mortal realm. Your legacy will live on through Sarin and her pups. Samson and his sisters. Sisters? I exclaimed. All she did was smile. Is Sarin with child? Well, we won't know for a couple of weeks, but, she said and shrugged her shoulders. Sarin and her children will begin a new legacy, and it will allow your legacy to live on through them. The race of the primordials will forever reign, but that is why I need you in the kingdom with me. We will work together to form bonds for our children. Ones that you must approve of to keep the primordials alive for years to come. I need to stay and help Sarin fight Kellen. No, you don't. It's not your fight, and you cannot intervene. Sarin and the girls must do this on their own. It is the ultimate test for them. What do you mean by ultimate test? What are you doing to them, Selene? I'm not doing anything. I can't. Just like you can't. Oh, stop being so cryptic, Selene. Enough of your games. I snapped at her. This is not a game, William Curvino, she shouted at me. Do you think I enjoy watching my children kill each other? Do you think I take joy in seeing Kellen become madder and madder with each passing day? Do you think that it doesn't hurt, not being able to show myself to Alexa and Xandra? My own daughters. Born from my womb and then stolen from me. I may be a celestial being, and I give life to the werewolves of this world, but I do not control their actions. Just like you can't control the actions of Sarin and the others. You tried to control the primordials of the past and look what happened. We are never meant to interfere in their everyday lives. We are only meant to guide them in the right direction, but it's up to them to make the right choices. It is called free will. Sarin isn't ready to be on her own. Oh, you know she is, and you hate that she is. Samson doesn't need you either. He has his parents, who are great people, and even finer werewolves. Your pride is hurt because she has done better at controlling her powers more than you ever could, and she did it on her own. The only guidance you gave her was learning to bring her powers to life. But controlling them, no, she did that herself, and you know she did. Is that why you choose not to show yourself to her? I'm not her goddess if you haven't noticed. You are her god, she said point blank. How had I never realized this before? Yes, she was born because I mated Megan and Gideon together, and it was I who put her into the hands of Kellen. I needed her to live so she could eventually be reunited with Jasper, and they could produce Sam. I was doing your job for you while you constantly wallowed in your self-pity because of what happened in the past, she shouted with a huff at the end of her rant. You need to accept the fact that everything happens for a reason, and that Sarin's bloodline will need their god to guide them, she continued, her tone more soft and gentle this time. I gulped and thought about everything that she said. She was right, as always. I have spent too much time thinking about the past, and what could have been, but the fact of the matter was, it was the past, and it already happened. I closed my eyes, sighed heavily, and nodded my head. When do I need to take my place? When you return, speak to Olivia, as she will also need to join you. The sooner the better. I nodded my head, and with that, she disappeared into thin air. Before I could dwell on the life-altering decision I just made, I was sucked into a dark vortex and began to fall into an abyss. The next thing I knew, the ground opened up, and I found myself falling from the sky. I used my powers to cushion my fall and landed on my 2 feet. Oh my God! William! I heard Olivia's voice. I turned to see her running to me as fast as she could and leaped into my arms. I caught her as if she weighed nothing and saw that Jasper, Griffin, Brent, and Riker were staring at me with wide eyes. I was about to kiss Olivia when she looked up and pushed me away suddenly. I looked up as well and saw 3 heads of blonde hair falling from the sky. OSHT! I heard someone shout. Olivia and I worked quickly to catch the girls mid-air before they hit the ground. I gently turned them around so they would land on their feet and not their heads. Whoa, that was a close one. Thanks, William, Sarin said and straightened out her clothes. Sarin! Xandra! Alexa! The boys shouted and embraced their respective mates. Holy hell, what happened, little ones? Where did you all go? Riker asked while looking at Xandra and Alexa. Xandra, Sarin, and I all turned our gazes to Alexa and quirked our eyebrows at her. It wasn't my fault. Chapter 53. Jasper's POV. You what? Those of us left behind were completely thrown for a loop. After relocating to the Golden Moon conference room for privacy, Sarin and the others explained what happened to them and why they had completely vanished after that burst of weird light hit us earlier. I looked at Griffin, Brent, and Riker, and we all had the same facial expression, a mixture of pure surprise and disbelief. That is, all of us except for Olivia. She seemed almost envious of William and the girls. Nothing made sense, and Olivia's reaction was really odd too. So, wait, are you saying that it was the white light that sent you guys to the past? Griffin asked. The light is essentially a portal, but it was Alexa who sent us to the past, William answered. We all stared at Alexa. You guys keep saying that it was me, but I don't even remember any of that, she shouted and crossed her arms. Alexa, it's because you don't have control over it yet. The gift you possess is immensely powerful, and must be used wisely, William cautioned her. I can't use it wisely if I don't know how to turn it on and off. We can teach you, Olivia reassured her with a smile, but before Alexa could even respond, William jumped in. Actually, no, we can't, he said ever so seriously. We all turned our gazes to him, and he appeared to be saddened by something. William, what do you mean we can't? Olivia asked, just as confused as the rest of us. We can't help her, or with anything else from here on out because we will no longer be here to help. Sarin's eyes nearly jumped out of their sockets. William, what are you? I'm sorry, child, but I have been summoned. I cannot put it off any longer. Summoned by whom? I asked with equal curiosity. The Lunar Kingdom. What? Everyone shouted in unison. William, what are you talking about? Olivia asked. I haven't been summoned by anyone or anything. Why didn't you tell me that you were Miranda's daughter? He asked out of the blue, ignoring her question altogether. Who's Miranda? Riker asked. Olivia's eyes went wide, and she bit her bottom lip. She looked around at the rest of us, and we could all tell that she was at a loss for words. Are you going to answer them? Or shall I? William asked her. She stared at him briefly, her eyes began to dart back and forth between everyone, lingering on William before she finally let out a defeated sigh. Miranda is the Wiccan goddess and she's my mother. What? Sarin responded. When you say she's your mother, as in she's the mother of all witches, or do you mean? Griffin started to question, but Olivia cut him off. I mean she gave birth to me, in the Lunar Kingdom. I'm from the kingdom, just like Xandra and Alexa. An eerie silence filled the room, and we all kept looking at one another, completely taken aback by this sudden revelation about Olivia's past. Why didn't you ever tell us? Sarin questioned whilst standing to her feet and slamming her hands on the table. Information like that is pretty pertinent to the SHT that we're currently dealing with. When I first introduced you to the girls, you should have said something then. Sarin, we're not permitted to share with anyone except our mates that we're from the Lunar Kingdom, Olivia replied. Yet, you still failed to tell me this, William snarked. My love, I didn't know how to tell you. After the incident with Alexa and Xandra had come to light, and I saw you were the guard at the kingdom during that time, I didn't want to bring up bad memories for you. I still deserved to know the truth, Olivia. From your mouth, and not from the mouth of the moon goddess, he snapped back. Olivia lowered her head. I don't get it, what does any of this have to do with you having to leave or not being able to help us with anything anymore? Xandra asked. She took the words right out of everyone's mouths. It has been brought to my attention as to why I am the first primordial, and why I am the only one that was given the gift of immortality, he answered. We waited for him to continue. I am the primordial god of the kingdom. Cue the crickets. I don't think anyone was expecting that. You. What? Sarin stumbled over her words. Sarin, I am your god, not just your forefather. According to Selene, you were not born of my blood, therefore, you are not my descendant biologically speaking. But, because I am the first primordial werewolf to ever exist, the powers that be blessed me with all of my powers as well as immortality so that one day I could take my rightful place in the kingdom to watch over all my children. Just as Selene does for all werewolves. I don't understand. We already have the moon goddess. She's the first werewolf to ever exist. But now, suddenly, there's going to be another werewolf god. Griffin asked. I will not be the god of all werewolves, Griffin. Only those that are of the Calloway bloodline. All eyes shifted to Sarin as soon as William mentioned her surname. Me? She asked, pointing at herself. William nodded and had the proudest smile on his face. Sarin, I always knew that you would be special, but I never knew just how special you were meant to be until Selene told me. What do you mean by special? Aren't I already special? You know, being a primordial and all. Yes, but that's not all. You gave birth to another primordial. I already told you and Jasper that you two would bring about some of the most powerful werewolves to ever exist, but I didn't realize that they too would procreate primordials. William, what are you trying to tell us? I asked him, trying to keep up with the information overload he was spewing out. Sarin is said to be the mother of all primordials present and future. I snapped my head in her direction and saw that her mouth was hanging open, her eyes held nothing but shock. Sam and any other pups that you two have will also produce primordials, that is unless I choose otherwise. What does that mean? I asked. It means that just as Selene chooses mates for werewolves, she and I will work together to choose mates for each other's children. If she chooses a normal werewolf as a mate for Sam, then I have the final say on whether that mate is worthy to produce one of my kind. Wait, are you saying that the Luna is some kind of matriarch for primordials? Brent asked. Yes, she is, William answered and smiled yet again. Which is why it will be up to her to help Alexa and Xandra control their powers, as their sister in the mortal realm. But it will also be her duty as the matriarch of our kind to guide her children to control their powers as well. We all nodded our heads, but Sarin was still frozen in her seat, her eyes once again bugging out. Dearest, are you okay? I asked as I gently nudged her. She didn't respond and her eyes tripled in size. Sarin, what's wrong? Her eyes were focused on William, and I followed her gaze only to find him smirking at her. No, she whispered without ever breaking eye contact with him. That's what I was told, he replied. But the timing. Don't get mad at me, get mad at her, he said, throwing his hands up in defense. What's going on? I asked, looking between them. Sarin's pregnant. Xandra squealed and started to clap her hands. We all looked at her with wide eyes. What? How do you know that she's pregnant? I asked her, turning my attention to Sarin who seemed mortified at what Xandra revealed. Sarin just said so, Xandra answered as if it was obvious. Baby, Sarin didn't say anything yet. You just blurted it out, Griffin told her. What? Xandra asked in utter shock. She didn't say anything. You answered on her behalf, little one, Riker repeated. Xandra, can you read my thoughts? Sarin asked. No, I can't read your thoughts. I swear you announced you were pregnant. No, I didn't. I think I know what just happened, William chimed in. He paused a minute and we all gave him the keep talking look. Alexa's power sends people to the past, at least, those who have unanswered questions about certain events and why they occurred. Xandra's power appears to be time skipping. Time skipping, everyone exclaimed. I don't think anyone noticed but a few moments ago, while I was having my cryptic conversation with Sarin just now, Xandra's eyes became white as snow for about half a second. They did? Xandra asked. Yes, and it appears that you skipped to a scene in the future that had yet to occur. The skip allowed you to see and hear the moment Sarin would announce that she believes she is pregnant to Jasper when he asked what we were discussing. Xandra, you can jump to the future? Griffin asked her. Xandra shrugged her shoulders and gaped back at him. Xandra's power is the opposite of Alexa's. Alexa's has to do with the past, and Xandra's has to do with the future. Though, it seems that Xandra's power allows her to skip to the future and right back again. But, she was still sitting here when that happened, or if it happened I should say. How could she skip to 10 seconds in the future and come back without leaving? Griffin disputed. Her subconscious. It's a form of astral projection. Because it was only a few seconds into the future, she didn't have to physically go. If it were further into the future, then her body would leave, as we did when we traveled to the past courtesy of Alexa. However, just as we cannot change the past, we must never know anything about the future. This was a small BL, as one might call it, so there were no repercussions. But, if anyone ever does travel further into the future, or if Xandra ever does, what you see and hear must remain a secret. We cannot risk potentially changing an outcome that could alter everyone's lives. But, isn't that the same as me or you having a premonition? Or Leah of Desert Moon having visions of imminent danger? Sarin asked. No, our visions are for us to prepare for an event that will occur within minutes to come, or perhaps a few hours. What Xandra's powers can do is quite literally allow her or someone else to travel to the future where events have already been solidified in time. Lottery winnings, stock market Kale Thornwoods, and situations such as births and marriages. Information that someone can use for all of the wrong reasons and cheat in life. Someone like Kellen, Sarin concluded. William just nodded. Oh, speaking of Kellen. Sarin, there's something we need to tell you, Alexa said. And it has nothing to do with future events, only what happened in the past, she quickly defended when William scowled at her. What? Sarin asked. When we traveled to the past, we ended up at Blood Moon. We were inside Kellen's office, Xandra answered. What? Yeah, and we're pretty certain that this was right before he attacked your pack. Marvin was there too. Marvin, everyone exclaimed. And we, overheard them talking about Kellen planning to attack and kill your dad so he could take your mom from him, Alexa continued. We already know that Kellen faked a challenge to kill her dad though, I reminded them. Right, but that's not what we learned, Xandra responded to me. What did you guys learn? Sarin asked. The expression on the girls' faces told me that they were afraid that the information they had was bad. I gently took Sarin's hand in mine to give her comfort because something told me that she was going to need it. Will you spit it out already? Sarin snapped. The girls jumped a bit before gathering their composure and gulping. He, and by he, we mean Kellen, poisoned your dad, Alexa said very carefully. What? Sarin gritted. He poisoned him, with something that we can't pronounce, Xandra replied. Yet, he had told Marvin what it was, and even Marvin freaked out and backed away from him. Kellen said that the poison could kill a werewolf in a day with just one drop in the bloodstream, Alexa said. And he said that if it was directly injected into the heart, it would kill a wolf instantly. We think that's how he killed your dad. Xandra answered and quickly backed away to hide behind Griffin. I could feel Sarin starting to tremble with pure rage. Could this guy be any more deranged? Faking a challenge was bad enough, but he cheated by using poison to gain the upper hand. What a disgrace! Griffin yelled. I could see the tears in Sarin's eyes threatening to fall, but they weren't tears of sadness, no, these were tears of absolute anger and hatred. Her eyes turned into pools of black obsidian, and I knew that she was on the verge of losing control of her anger. William! I called out to him, and he could see it too. He immediately pushed Sarin onto her back, snarling at her to keep her and Callie at bay, but it seemed that it wasn't working. Sarin's anger was getting the best of her, and she forced William off her. She threw him back so far and so hard that he went straight through the wall. The next thing I knew, she was gone. I shouted and tried to go after her. But with her speed, Sarin could be halfway to China in less than a minute. William! I called out to him again. Without even answering, he went after her. Where did she go? The others ran out and asked as they came up next to me. To go kill Kellen, I answered. Jasper, we're so sorry, we didn't think. It's okay, Xandra. Sarin deserved the truth. William will get her to stop, I hope. Jasper, William will more than likely force her to return to Blue Lake. We should go too, Olivia suggested. I nodded my head and took her hand as she teleported us back to the pack house. I could only hope that he caught her before she made it to Silver Lake to kill Kellen in cold blood. Chapter 54. Sarin's POV. The moment I heard what Alexa and Xandra had to say about Kellen and how he had overpowered my father, it was as if someone cast a spell over me, and my body went on autopilot. I couldn't stop myself from leaving Golden Moon and going straight to the source of my anger, Kellen Patterson. Everything felt surreal since I was moving so fast that it felt like I was flying, and my feet seemed to float off the ground as they carried me directly to the place that I once called home. I realized that I haven't seen Silver Lake since the day Kellen abducted me from there after he brutally slaughtered everyone. Now that I knew how he pulled it off, nothing was going to stop me from getting my revenge. Sarin, stop! William had suddenly appeared, blocking my path. Move, William! Sarin, stand down! No! Get out of my way! I'm going to end him once and for all. Sarin, what did I tell you about controlling your anger? He is the source of my anger. Him and Cale Thornwood. I'll calm down when they're dead. I snapped at him. I could see the beginning of the pack border where Silver Lake once stood. The lake that was previously filled with fresh, clean, and blue water was now drier than the Sahara Desert. Seeing my birthplace completely turned into a barren wasteland broke my heart. I pushed past William to get through, but he used his powers against me and pulled me back, throwing me at least 100 yards backward. Before I could even stand up, he was in front of me again and forced me back even further. Why are you stopping me? He needs to die. Sarin, enough, he roared at me in a voice so powerful it made my hair blow back, and the birds in the area flew away while squawking in fear. His eyes were bright red, and I knew his wolf had taken over due to my lack of cooperation. I stared into his eyes defiantly until the dam finally broke and I screamed at the top of my lungs while falling to my knees, falling into my hands. I felt so defeated and even more conflicted than ever before. I thought I could let go of the past after seeing what I had seen, but I was wrong. I chose not to see my father in the past because I didn't want to be tempted into telling him everything and trying to change the past, but I was regretting that more than anything right now. I regretted not showing myself to him, so he could see me all grown up. I had decided not to because I felt it would be cruel and unusual. While I was kneeling on the ground, wishing I could bury myself further into the dirt and drowning in my own tears. I felt William put his hand on my shoulder as he knelt down beside me. He wrapped his arms around me, and I felt nothing but warmth. It wasn't like Selene, no, her warmth came from the moon. That was a feeling that no one else could mimic. William's warmth was different. It was almost fatherly. It hurts, I sobbed. What does? Everything. It hurts so much. The pain of losing my family, the pain of being able to see them but not touch them. The pain of watching my mother give herself to Kellen to protect Silver Lake. The pain of knowing that Kellen did all of this and yet he's still alive. The pain of knowing that they were meant to die no matter what the circumstances. All of it. It just hurts. I just want the pain to go away. Why won't the pain go away? I cried. Because pain never goes away, Sarin. At least, not fully. There will always be pain in our lives, whether it be physical or emotional. It's how we endure the pain that sets us apart from those like Kellen. Ones who use pain as an excuse to hurt others. The kind of people who want to make others suffer because their own life is miserable. If you go in there now, you'll be just like him. Killing in cold blood won't make you feel better, Sarin. How do you know? I know. Believe me, I know. I was once in your shoes. I lost someone very near and dear to me, and the pain and anger that followed clouded my judgment. I hurt those close to me and struck fear into the hearts of those who had once looked to me for leadership and guidance. It's precisely why I am always telling you to control your anger. One mistake is a primordial, and the world will turn on you in the blink of an eye. Someone wise once told me that you should use powers to show people what you can do for them, and not what you can do to them. I lifted my head with tears still falling from my eyes, and he gently wiped them away. Please, don't leave me, I begged him. I still need you. No, Sarin, you don't. You're more than strong enough to handle all of this on your own. But don't use your anger and pain as an excuse to stoop to Kellen's level. Use it to surpass him. Show him why your mother was mated to your father, and not to him. Show him who you are here, he said as he pointed to my heart. And why you were able to overcome it all despite the pain and the suffering you went through. If you do what he would do, he wins. It would mean that he succeeded in breaking you all those years ago. Don't let him win, Sarin. I stared at him and couldn't stop crying. I just want my family back. Sarin, you have a family. You have Jasper, Samson, Ronan, Grace, Kendrick, Jason, Melody, and Milan. You have Alexa and Xandra now too. You have me and Olivia. But you're leaving, I whined. Physically, yes. But remember that I will always guide you, Sarin. Just like Selene guides the werewolves of the world, I will forever guide you and all future primordials. I can't do this without you. Yes, you can. Believe me, you can. You've been doing it on your own since the beginning, Sarin. I was nothing but a crutch to you, and I held you back because I was afraid that you would follow in my footsteps, but I was wrong. Very, very wrong. You have surpassed me in far more ways than I could have ever imagined, and I am proud to have witnessed it. I am proud to call you the matriarch of my kind, Sarin. The powers that be made a wonderful choice when they selected you to be born as the chosen one. I don't think I could have picked a better wolf to carry on my legacy. I sniffled as I looked into his eyes. Let's get you home. I nodded my head as he helped me to my feet and then proceeded to carry me bridal style in his arms. As we were leaving, I looked back to see the ruins of Silver Lake becoming smaller and smaller in the distance. I closed my eyes and pictured everything the way it used to be, and the pack territory filled with pack members. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It was home. I opened my eyes and, as I looked at the ruins, I promised on my parents' souls that I would take back Silver Lake from Kellen, and I would return it to its rightful glory. Silver Lake wasn't dead, not by a long shot. As long as I am alive and breathing, Silver Lake is not dead. Xandra's POV. After Jasper and Olivia left, I turned to Griffin, and he gave me a disapproving look. He had never once looked at me that way, and I wondered if I had made a horrible mistake in telling Sarin what we overheard Kellen discussing and how he had killed her father. "Everyone, go inside and go to your rooms. Xandra, meet me in my office," he said and walked away. I glanced at Alexa and the others, and they gave me sympathetic looks. I had never seen Griffin angry before, at least, not at me. But I guess there was a first time for everything. I went upstairs to Griffin's office and saw that he had the door slightly cracked open. I pushed it in gently and saw him with his back facing me while he stared out of the window. "Close the door and lock it." I did as he said and quietly shut the door and turned the lock. The moment it clicked, I found myself being pinned against the door and lifted into the air. "Griffin!" I screamed. I tried to push him away, but he grabbed my hands and pinned them above my head while he pressed me against the door with his body. My legs naturally wrapped around his H.P.S. and felt his little friend pressing against my lower area. "Griffin, what are you?" He cut me off by pressing his L.P.S. to mine in a fiery K.S.S. I tried to keep up with him, but his L.P.S. were being rough and he was moving so fast. He bit my L.P. harshly, not enough to hurt, but enough to make me gasp. As soon as he found the opening, his tongue made its way into my mouth, and he started to taste every inch inside of it. When he finally pulled away just as I was about to die from a combination of suffocation and pleasure, he bit my lower L.P. again with his teeth and pulled on it gently before letting go. "Don't you ever disappear on me like that again, Xandra," he growled at me as he rubbed his hardness against me. I couldn't help the fact that it felt good and M0ANED slightly. "It was Alexa's fault," I said breathlessly. "I'm sure Brent is punishing her in his own way," he said to me before kissing me once more and then putting me down, walking away as if nothing just happened. "Hey? Griffin? Why are you? We're not having sex, Xandra. I'm going to withhold it for the next 48 hours as punishment for you disappearing for several hours. Maybe then, you'll understand what it feels like," he answered as he sat down at his desk and turned on the computer. My mouth dropped to the floor in shock. Griffin has never said no to me ever since we first mated. "Griffin? No," I scoffed in complete shock. He was actually going to deny me. I was about to stomp over to him and give him a piece of my mind. Before I could, there was a knock on the door. I looked over at him, and he looked just as confused as I did. When I opened the door, I was shocked to see Jay standing there. "Jay? Is everything all right?" I asked her. Yeah. I wanted to know if I could talk to you for a minute." "Yeah, of course," I replied and led her away from Griffin's office so he could work or do whatever it was that was more important than having sex with me. I took Jay into an empty bedroom on Mav Kelling's floor so we could talk in private. Once we were both settled, I took notice of the amount of weight Jay had finally gained since she came to Golden Moon. Her hair was no longer matted, and her braids were fresh and straight. Her eyes had so much more life in them, and her complexion was back to normal. Or, normal as it could be. "So, how are you doing?" I asked her. "I'm doing better. Mav Kellen has been helping me adjust to normal life. The medicine that Dr. Andrews has been giving me helps with my skin and eyes, and regular meals have allowed me to put on weight. I definitely feel better than when I first came here, she replied. I smiled at her, and she gave me a small smile back. It's been a little over 3 months now, Jay. Have you considered what you're going to do about Mav Kellen? No, not yet. Jay, you can't keep making him wait. He deserves an answer from you. Are you going to accept the mate bond, or are you going to let him go? I don't know, Xandra. This is still too much for me. I'm still trying to heal physically. I can't even think about adding emotions to all of this right now. What does Zahara say? She's starting to come around. She'll ask to come out to hang out with Mav Kellen or his wolf, Arcos. Well, if she's coming around, then a part of you is too, right? She gave me a one-shoulder shrug and started to look around the room without saying anything. Jay, what's wrong? You're not telling me everything. She pouted her L.P.S. and fiddled with her fingers on her lap before sighing and looking at me. Xandra, how did you know you were ready to kiss Griffin? Chapter 55. Jasper's POV. I found myself pacing back and forth as I waited for any sign of them. Although it felt good to be back home, my mind kept wandering and my patience had left the building. Why the hell was it taking so long for William to come back with Sarin? All different types of scenarios were starting to run through my head. What if he didn't get to her in time, and she killed Kellen and his family? What if she got there and Kellen laid a trap that injured her? That wouldn't make sense, though, because I would have felt it through our bond. One thing that I did feel was her anger and her pain. Her pain was excruciating. I had no idea Sarin was suffering through this much emotional pain. Hearing what Kellen had done to Uncle Mitch was enough to put me over the edge. I wanted to rip his head off, but that was only a mere fraction of what Sarin was feeling. All of this time, even though we knew Kellen had staged the challenge to kill Uncle Mitch, we had no idea that he had cheated by using poison. I was really curious to know what kind of poison it might have been. I needed to keep myself busy while I waited for William and Sarin to come back, so I called Jason and his father to my office. If there was anyone in this pack that I trusted enough to find out what type of poison was used on Gideon, it would be them. Yo, you called for us? Jason asked as he and Felix entered inside. Yeah, come in and have a seat. Close the door behind you, I directed them. Oh, this doesn't sound good, Felix speculated, taking a seat. That's because it's not. What I am about to tell you both stays in this office until I say otherwise. They nodded and leaned forward at the same time. I looked at them and shook my head. Like father, like son. What's up? Jason asked. I took a deep breath before diving into a lengthy explanation of what happened when we had to suddenly take off to Golden Moon. I didn't spare any details and told them about everything: Alexa and Xandra's powers, William being the primordial god, Olivia being from the kingdom herself and, of course, what Alexa and Xandra had witnessed when they went to the past. By the time I was done, Jason and Felix looked like two deer caught in the headlights. Hold thep hone, man. Are you serious right now? That Kellen not only lied about the challenge but poisoned Uncle Mitch at that. Jason echoed angrily, making sure he heard me correctly. I just nodded and leaned back in my chair as I let out a sigh. And Sarin heard all of this? Felix asked. Yup. Her anger got the best of her and even William couldn't restrain her. She overpowered him and ran out of Golden Moon like a bat out of hell on a mission. William went after her, and that's when Olivia and I decided to come back. Why didn't you go after her, they shouted in unison. Seriously? Have the both of you forgotten how fast her super speed is? Jason, you've witnessed her speed firsthand. Yeah, that's true. Sorry. I hate that even my bond with her isn't enough to calm her down. The level of anger I felt from her the moment the girls had told us what happened to Uncle Mitch was something I had never felt before. Even compared to when she was about to kill all of those hunters in the hurricane of fire, or whatever the hell she had created that day. What I felt today was magnified by, at least, 100 times. Can you blame her, Jasper? The poor girl was only 10 when she lost everything she ever knew in her life and was under the impression that it was done fair and square. Nothing about losing your family is fair, but everyone, and by everyone, I mean everyone, believed that it was done legally. You saw how we reacted to the challenge being a scam. Imagine how much it hurt for her to find out the truth. Then, to hear that the man who did it is alive because the elders had a betrayer, followed by her finding out she has half-sisters that were fathered by the very same man. Now, you're adding this information to the mix. I'm surprised Sarin didn't lose her self-control sooner, Felix argued on her behalf. I knew that he was right. Everything Sarin ever knew about her life and her past has all been one big fat lie. And there was one common denominator in all of this: Kellen Patterson. What did you need us for? I seriously doubt it was just to tell us how much more inged up Kellen is, Jason knowingly asked. According to the girls, the poison Kellen used on Uncle Mitch can kill a full-grown werewolf instantly if it's injected straight into the heart. It's deadly enough to kill a werewolf, even with a single drop, within 24 hours, I told them. The father-son duo both looked simultaneously taken aback and terrified. I need you guys to reach out to your contacts and see if you can figure out what kind of poison he used. Yeah, sure, we can do that, Jason responded. Felix nodded, and they both went about their way to obtain the information I requested. Just as they were opening the door to leave my office, Olivia came rushing in frantically. Whoa! Miss Olivia, where's the fire? Felix asked. Pardon my intrusion, but Jasper, they're back, she exclaimed. I bolted out of my seat and ran past them. I practically jumped down the 5 flights of stairs, and I found William by the front door carrying Sarin, unconscious, in his arms. What happened? I asked him as I looked her over. She's fine. She just passed out from crying so much, he answered. I made it to her in time and was able to prevent her from doing anything she might regret. She ended up breaking down and practically cried herself to sleep. Jasper, she is in a lot of pain, and she's going to need you when she wakes up. What about you? I already knew where this was heading. I've already told you, and Sarin. Olivia and I have to go. I cannot put it off any longer. Truth be told, I am nothing but a crutch to Sarin. She will be fine without me, and she knows it. She's just gotten used to me being around for the last couple of years. I will always be with her, just as the moon goddess is always with you. William, I don't. You don't have to say anything, he said as he handed her to me. Jasper, I wanted to thank you and Kendrick for coming to find me in Italy 2 years ago. Because of you, I was able to build a bond with the daughter I never got to have. I can only hope that Sarin felt the same about me. Trust me, she does, I responded. William smiled and placed a firm grip on my shoulders. Watch over my legacy. I nodded my head. Olivia, come. She walked over to him and took his hand. Let's go home. She nodded her head as she looked at me. Jasper, I'm sorry it has to be this way, and I'm sorry for not telling you the truth sooner. Please give my regards to your family and everyone else. I will. Take care. William nodded his head once, and they disappeared in a FL Thornwood. As soon as they were gone, Sarin stirred in my arms. I looked down, and her eyes slowly opened. Dearest, can you hear me? I asked her. She tilted her head upward and I saw her chocolate eyes widen a bit. Where's William? She asked and jumped out of my arms, which almost made me drop her. He's gone, baby. He and Olivia left just now. Tears immediately filled her eyes, and she dropped her head as she buried her face in her hands. I could feel her pain all over again, and I pulled her into my arms. She sobbed uncontrollably. Pack members were starting to gather around us, and a lot of them had worried expressions on their faces. Sarin's emotional distress could be felt by everyone. Oh my God, why is she crying? Melody asked as she came running down the stairs. Not now, Dot. It's been a hell of a day for us, and she's just overwhelmed with everything. Can you tell Mom to keep Sam for the night? Yeah, of course, she answered and looked at Sarin sympathetically. I picked her up bridal style and took her to our room to see what I could do to help her through this. William's POV. When Olivia and I landed at the base of a mountain in the middle of nowhere, I was slightly confused. I looked at her and all she did was nod. Are we at the entrance? I asked her. Yes, this is the most recent portal that I am aware of, she answered. Portal? Yes. After what happened with the girls, the gods and goddesses of the kingdom created portals that only those born from the kingdom, or those who are meant to rule in it, can access. This portal is for the Wiccan. How long have you known about this portal? I questioned her. Not long. Maybe a few months. Miranda showed it to me in a vision, but I never thought I would have to use it. I guess it was her way of telling me that she was calling me home. Home. Such a relative term, as it holds so much meaning. I've had many homes over the millennia, yet, no place ever felt like home. Other than when I was with Heaven, and then with you, at Blue Lake. Blue Lake was home for both of us, Wrens. Sarin was like a daughter to me as much as she was to you. She brought us together again. If it wasn't for her, I don't think you and I would have been able to save our mate bond. I couldn't agree with you more. When we were first mated together, I thought Selene was playing a practical joke on me. I felt the same way with Miranda. I never understood why she would allow a witch to be mated to a werewolf, let alone a primordial, but I guess there was a reason behind all of the madness. She mated me, her daughter, to a god of the kingdom. I guess there is no better honor than that, she said with a loving smile, her eyes filled with adoration. I gently pulled her into my arms and held her tightly. Olivia, I know you said that you've been alive too long to have children, but our return to the kingdom will change all of that, I whispered to her. I felt her body freeze. My love, would you be willing to try? She gently pulled away and stared at me. Are you asking me to have children with you? I am. But, you said that. I know that I said I didn't want any, and you also said that you couldn't have them. But things are drastically different now. We're about to enter the lunar kingdom where you will also become immortal. Which means you and I can try for a family of our own. And what about heaven? Won't her spirit be in the kingdom as well? Yes, but I rejected her many years ago, and she accepted it. My mate bond with her is broken for all eternity. But you never accepted it. You waited over 800 years for me and, now, we are together, as one, I reassured her as I lifted her hand to my LPS and kissed the back of it. When you and I walk into the kingdom, we will be bound for all eternity. Even death won't be able to tear us apart. If Selene and the others can have children of their own, then why can't we? Olivia became speechless and just stared at me like I had grown a second head. Renz, this is so sudden. No, it's not. I've been thinking about it for a while now, but I didn't know how to bring it up to you. But, with everything going on and both of us having to leave Sarin and others behind, it makes me want a family of my own. With you. Maybe we can try for our own daughter. The one neither one of us got to have but were able to share in Sarin temporarily. She continued to stare at me and, finally, her LPS started to form into a smile. She scoffed but her smile only got that much bigger. Yes. Yes. Oh, my goddess, yes. Let's have a family, she cried out and jumped into my arms. I kissed her passionately and pressed her up against the mountain wall. I think we should start now, I told her and pushed her dress up while unbuttoning my pants at the same time using my powers. Wait, the portal, she said between K's as I swiftly entered her without hesitation. Ah! The portal. If they want to watch like peeping toms, then let them. I want you, my beautiful Wiccan mate. And, as the god of primordials, you will give me what I want. Is that understood? I growled in her ears as I thrust into her with passion and devotion. Yes, Lord William. Please, have your way with me, she M0ANED and begged. I pulled her off the wall and took her on the ground in front of the portal as it began to open. Pressing her against the wall must have triggered it. Whoever came out to verify our identities was going to get an eye and ear full. Chapter 56. Jasper's POV. It's been gloomy around here for the past 3 days since William and Olivia left. After everything that's happened, I figured it was in our best interest to be upfront with the pack about their absence. I spilled the beans about pretty much everything: William and Olivia's true identities, why he was so close to Sarin since day one, why they left, and where they went. The pack members were stunned, and a large portion of them weren't too thrilled to find out that we had been lying to them yet again. Some had quite a bit to say about it and, of course, those same individuals had the nerve to ask if there was anything else I'd like to say to them in a tone that could only be described as highly disrespectful. I decided to take Dorian's advice by threatening those same individuals with an ultimatum. If they didn't like how Sarin and I were running the pack, they were free to leave. They seemed taken aback and flustered since no Alpha of Blue Lake had ever made that threat before, but I stood my ground. All things considered, I didn't have time for juvenile tantrums. With Sarin possibly being pregnant again and Kellen still on the loose, I needed pack members that would stand by us without a shadow of a doubt. My parents were still in the dark about everything else that recently happened, so I told them about Alexa and Xandra's dormant powers that suddenly came to light and Sarin's potential pregnancy. Once my mom heard the word pregnancy, she went straight to the kitchen to cook Sarin the only meal she would be able to keep down: steak and potatoes. It finally dawned on me that this was the same meal my mother made for her when she was pregnant with Sam and, at the time, my memories were altered. Even with Sarin moping in our room and only entertaining Sam, I was grateful that she would allow my mother in, and she would actually eat. My biggest fear was that her emotional distress would ruin her appetite, but it didn't, and I couldn't be more relieved. Even if she wasn't opening up to me, I knew she was at least talking to my mom. I wasn't sure if Sarin just needed a maternal figure in her life right now, but, as long as she wasn't bottling up her feelings, I would give her space and let her heal however necessary on her own terms. It was finally time to return to work since I had been on an extended leave of absence for far too long, and things at the company were getting more hectic with each passing week as projects came in left and right. Since the Alpha from Spain was singing our praises to his fellow Alphas in Europe, word had spread all the way to Asia, and I was now in short supply of teams to handle business. Human Resources decided it was a good idea to host a job fair and, as the CEO, I had to oversee it. I was worried about leaving Sarin so soon after William and Olivia's departure, but she reassured me that she would be fine and encouraged me to go. I knew better than to smother her and trusted that, if anything happened, she would link me or my parents would. I wanted Sarin's environment to be as stress-free as possible. If that meant I had to get out of her hair for 10 hours a day, then that's what I was going to do. It would also give me a chance to check in with West to see what Kellen and Cale Thornwood were currently up to. I had Jason reach out to him with instructions to come by the company as soon as he had the chance. Ring ring ring. Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Valencia, but there is a Daryl West here to see you. Send him in. Yes, sir. The door opened, and West seemed a little hesitant to come in. He lacked confidence as he checked out my office as if he had never seen one before. Alpha, you're a creature of habit, he mentioned before taking his seat. What? Your office here looks exactly like your office inside the pack house, he replied. I scanned the room and realized that he was absolutely right. How did I not notice this? I shook my head because we were getting off track. We're not here to talk about the interior of my offices, West. We're here to discuss if you've learned anything new about Kellen and his plans. Not much, to be quite honest. Kellen is a secretive. He only meets with his individual moles one at a time in different locations so that none of us see each other. Wait, did you say moles? As in, more than you and the one at Golden Moon? Yes, that would be the definition of more than one, he replied with a smart A.SS tone. I gave him a death glare. Ahem, sorry. How many? How many what? How many moles does he have, God? I shouted at him, making him jump. Christ, you don't have to shout at me. I have no idea, okay? All I know is that it's multiple. At least one from every neighboring pack. What? How spot does he have a mole in all of the neighboring packs? The same way he got to me. Leverage. All he has to do is find a weak pack member, threaten their family or mate, and wham bam he has a mole on his payroll. You said he has some kind of hidden wealth that he's using to pay all of you, right? He nodded his head. Is it with him at Silver Lake? No clue, he pays us in crypto. Crypto? As in Bitcoin? Something along those lines. He uses Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and even this thing called Dogecoin. Where the hell did Kellen get his hands on that much cryptocurrency? Again, Alpha, you're asking me questions that I don't know the answers to. I've told you this already, but he doesn't tell us SHT. I pinched the bridge of my nose in utter frustration. What spot was the point of having a mole for ourselves if he was completely useless? Part of me thought I would just kill him myself and deal with Kellen in person, one-on-one. But, the whole poison aspect of everything came back to me, so I scratched that idea from my head. Is there anything you can tell me that would be of some kind of use? I asked him desperately. Well, the other day he and Nicole were fighting again. Something about Kellen and his betrayal not too long after they had their mating ceremony. This caught my attention real quick, and I snapped my head up to look at West. What did she say? Oh yes, she said something about his trick to conceal the fact that he was having an affair was useless, and that she knew exactly where he was. Something along the lines of, it doesn't take a genius to know when their mate is being unfaithful, and all of the black magic in the world couldn't hide the pain she felt during his infidelity. Wait, you're saying that Nicole knows that Kellen had an affair not long after they had their mating ceremony? I reiterated to make certain I heard him correctly. Yes. She was livid. The screaming from within could be heard from outside. The fighting got so bad that Cale Thornwood and his sister came out of the lair beneath the pack house to get away from it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So there was, in fact, a lair beneath the crumbled pack house. West was good for something after all gossip. What else? Well, from what I could hear, Kellen said his stepping out was Nicole's own fault because she was lousy in bed and something about her being loose. AIY. Too much information. That was the last thing I wanted to hear. Good grief, you act as you've never had ex before. Nicole is old enough to be my mother, you moron. No son wants to hear about an old woman's private parts. I'll be sure to let your mother know that you called her old, he taunted me. Moving on. What else did they say? Oh yes, Kellen went on to say that only one woman would ever make him happy and that, even in death, she would always be better than Nicole. He never said the woman's name, but that one statement had Nicole screaming at the top of her lungs and she started to tr Cale Thornwood the lair. You could see puffs of dust and smoke rising from the Cale Thornwoods of the Silver Lake pack house. My thoughts were right. Nicole knew about Kellen leaving her for a few months to assault Megan while she was in captivity. Not to mention, Kellen had practically admitted that he was with her during that time. He also threw it in her face that he fathered children with this other woman. I snapped my head towards him in horror. What did you say? Patterson, he threw it in his mate's face that he fathered children with this other woman that he's so in love with. He said that? To Nicole. Yes. Is there a problem? I bit my bottom lip. This wasn't good. This meant that Kellen knew about the girls. This also meant that Nicole would eventually figure out who they are and it was only a matter of time before she came for them. If the mole from Golden Moon caught wind of this, then he or she might tell Kellen where Xandra and Alexa are. Which, in turn, would tip off Nicole. There's no telling what she would do if she got her hands on them. I needed to warn Griffin. Alpha? Is there? No. No problem. At least, not one you need to worry about. Is there anything else you need to tell me? He thought for a minute. Yes, there is one more thing. I overheard Cale Thornwood and his sister talking and, apparently, Cale Thornwood plans on challenging his father after they kill all of the alphas at the next alpha meeting. What alpha meeting? There isn't one on the calendar until next year. I doubt Kellen is going to wait that long. I don't know. You're the alpha, he replied with another smart A.SS remark. Get Spot out of my office, West. And keep your head down. You get me as much information as possible. And if I find out you even think about betraying me again, I'll find your family, and they'll watch as I rip off your head, do you hear me? I growled at him. He gulped, nodded his head, and scurried out of my office. As soon as he was gone, I made sure that I didn't have any meetings on the books. Thankfully, my calendar was clear for the rest of the day as Human Resources planned for the upcoming job fair. I wasn't needed until the actual day, so I decided I would have to call all of the alphas in the area and Elder Jonah as well. If there was a mole in every neighboring pack, then Kellen was getting ready to get his hands dirty, and we needed to prepare for it under the radar. Damn, I really wish that William was here right now. Third-person POV. After West left Jasper's office, he made his way out of the city and back into the lush forests. When he was out of view of the main highway and cars passing by, he quickly shifted into his wolf and set off towards Silver Lake. Although Jasper was under the impression that he had West in the palm of his hand, what he didn't know was that West was still working for Kellen, and very closely at that. When he returned to Silver Lake, he made sure that no one was around and slipped into the lair beneath the ruins. As he made his way further and further down, he finally made it to his destination. He knocked on the door a few times before it was opened. "West, what do you want?" "I did what you asked. I told him what you wanted me to tell him." "Did he buy it?" "I don't know, Alpha. He seemed to have bought it." He was surprised to hear about an Alpha's meeting coming up since he said that there wasn't one on the calendar until next year. "Hopefully, this means that he will be concerned." "Enough to call an actual Alpha's meeting like you hoped," West replied as he took a seat on the small armchair in the office. "What else did you tell him?" "Nothing. Though he kept prying, I kept telling him that you don't tell us SHT, so." "What?" Kellen roared at West. "What?" West asked in confusion. He couldn't fathom why Kellen would suddenly become angry and shout at him. "You told him that there were other moles." Kellen seethed as his eyes turned black with rage. I. No. I didn't mean to. West was cut off by Kellen grabbing him by the throat. As his airways were being constricted, he began heaving to get oxygen into his lungs by any means necessary. He clawed at Kellen's arms, but it was no use. For Kellen, though disgraced, was still an Alpha. "Please, Alpha," he muttered to the best of his ability. West's face was starting to turn blue. Kellen, unable to control his rage, crushed West's windpipe, suffocating him to death. Kellen dropped West's body where he stood and kicked it to the side to add to the pile of dead bodies of pack members from the other packs that Kellen had commissioned as his spies. One minor mistake on their part meant death, as Kellen had zero patience for stupidity. Just as he sat down in his chair, the door opened, and Cale Thornwood walked in. Cale Thornwood looked around at the dead bodies, and his eyes landed on West. He shook his head and looked at his father disgustedly. How he could be related to such a cold-hearted murderer, he will never know. "You need to stop killing them. We're running out of moles because you keep killing them. They're idiots. They can't even do the simplest thing right." West was stupid enough to tell that good-for-nothing petulant child, Jasper, that we had more than one mole. Kellen shouted at his son, trying to defend his actions. Trying but failing, for in Cale Thornwood's eyes and ears, he would never understand his father's logic on killing the people that were meant to help rebuild their fallen pack. Blood Moon. If they couldn't get werewolves to betray their pack to join theirs without the fear of dying over the smallest infraction, then Cale Thornwood's plan to challenge his father would be pointless. "You have to stop killing everybody. I'm the Alpha." Kellen roared at Cale Thornwood. Though Cale Thornwood wasn't afraid of Kellen anymore, he didn't want to risk Kellen killing him in retaliation before he had a chance to fight back. Cale Thornwood bit his tongue and bowed his head, even though it pained him to do so. Did West at least do what he was supposed to do and tell Jasper that there was going to be an Alpha's meeting coming up? Kellen calmed down and sighed. Yes. At least he was able to do that part right. Then we're ahead of schedule. Who cares if West told him about the other moles? At the rate you're killing them, there won't be any moles left by the time all of the Alphas meet. For once, that pea-sized brain of yours has a point, Kellen said, mocking his son. As soon as all of the Alphas meet, we will send the gift basket of Werwine. Werwine. Cale Thornwood asked in confusion. We won't need to kill them with our own hands this time, or with the help of dark magic, for an old friend of mine has come to my aid and provided me with something that I know will kill all of them within seconds. What? Cale Thornwood asked. This, Kellen replied and pulled out a syringe that was filled with black liquid. What is that? This, boy, is called dimethylmercury. Chapter 57. Sarin's POV. Ever since William and Olivia went back to the Lunar Kingdom a few days ago, I felt like my life was just so empty. I tried to dwell on what William told me, to consider myself lucky for the family that I did have: Jasper, Sam, Ronan, and Grace, and everyone else in between. The pack itself was also my family, but I couldn't help but feel as if something was just missing. I don't know if it's because I got so used to William being around all the time, or if it's the fact that it felt like I've lost another father, but I felt anything but whole at the moment. Jasper was giving me space, and he wasn't trying to pry into my feelings. I was incredibly grateful for that, since I wasn't sure I could handle his tough love crap right now. Grace was doting on me and waited on me hand and foot ever since Jasper told her along with everyone else that I may be pregnant again. I wasn't positive myself, but, now that I thought about it, I had been feeling sick for the last day or two. Grace was gracious enough to provide me with my favorite pregnancy meal, steak and potatoes. Everything else was making me want to throw up, which led me to believe that I was, indeed, pregnant again. I honestly wish I weren't, especially with everything that was going on. I just didn't have the mental capacity to deal with being pregnant while trying to figure out a way to get rid of the Pattersons once and for all. I looked at the clock and saw that it was just about time for Jasper to come home from work. Sam was playing on his playmat, minding his own business. He was still obsessed with that black wolf plush that Olivia conjured during my pregnancy with him. "Mommy, where Daddy?" Sam asked all of a sudden. I picked him up and placed him on the bed with me. He crawled in between my legs and continued to play with the wolf plush. "Daddy should be home any minute. Then we're going to Cale Thornwood up and get ready for dinner, yes." "Yeah." Just as I said that, the door to the bedroom opened and in walked Jasper. "Hey," I greeted him as he loosened his tie. "Hey back. How are you feeling, dearest?" he inquired as he walked over to me and kissed the top of my head, ruffling Sam's hair afterward. "I'm sad, but it is what it is," I replied. "You up for going down for dinner, or did you want to stay here?" he asked. I thought about it for a minute. I had been secluded in our bedroom since the day William and Olivia left, and that was 3 days ago. Though I wanted to stay in here, away from everyone and their questions, I knew that I couldn't keep hiding. "I guess I can go down." "Are you sure? If you're not ready then you don't have to, Sarin." "Yeah, I'm sure. I don't want to, but I know that I have to. I'm the Luna, and I can't isolate myself every time something emotional happens to me." Jasper sighed and nodded his head. I gave him a curt smile before turning to Sam. "Sam, what do we do before dinner?" "Wash hands," he said and clapped his hands. "Come on, buddy, let's go Cale Thornwood our hands for dinner," Jasper said in a cheerful tone and scooped up Sam, throwing him in the air while walking to the bathroom. I smiled at them and threw my body back onto the bed when the door closed. "Sarin, are you okay?" "No, Callie, I'm not okay. I miss William and Olivia. They were like second parents to me, aside from Ronan and Grace. They were there for me when I was at my lowest point, through thick and thin. And now, suddenly, they're both gone. Sarin, you know they were never meant to stay with us forever." You knew that William was something more than just the first primordial. I know, but still. It's .ux. He said he would stay and help me train Sam when he became of age. You heard what William said, that's your job now. You. Us. We're the matriarch of primordials. And who better to train our son than us? I hear what you're saying, Callie, and I know that you're right. It doesn't stop me from feeling lonely. Oh, come off it, Sarin. You're not alone. Far from it. You have me, Jasper, Sam, all of our friends, your sisters, and the little one growing inside of you. What? What? Callie, did you just say little one? Oh, yeah, the little one. Perhaps going to see Dr. Andrews after dinner would be a wise idea. Before I could say anything else, Callie buried herself deep within the back of my mind. You did not just do that. I shouted out loud. Do what? I turned my head and saw Jasper and Sam both staring at me. Ugh, not you. Callie, I replied and sat up. Why are you arguing with your wolf, baby? We weren't arguing. She just, she confirmed that I am, in fact, pregnant. You are. Jasper shouted at the top of his lungs and threw Sam in the air. Jasper! Be careful! I screamed as Sam thankfully landed on the bed. Oh, crap! I'm sorry, buddy. Jasper quickly apologized and looked Sam over. Sam was nothing but giggles, and yet here I was freaking out that he may have gotten injured. More! More! Daddy, more! Sam demanded. I gaped at him. Jasper just shrugged and picked him up happily and threw him on the bed again. Sam was laughing so joyfully as he landed face first onto the bed. He got up, ran to Jasper as fast as his little legs could take him, and this happened over and over again until Melody came in to call us down for dinner. We stopped the fun, much to Sam's displeasure, and went down for dinner. Pack members greeted me, some gave me uggs and some only sympathetic looks. Some looked at me with disdain, and I was certain it was because we were never fully upfront about William and his true identity, although William did say it was okay for us to announce it. It wasn't our place to do so. Grace had already informed me that Jasper threatened those who were unhappy with us, and I was glad that he did. I didn't want to deal with everyone's personal issues with us. I already knew we could never make everyone happy, so it was a step in the right direction. As we entered the dining room, Melody, Milan, and Michelle came up to me and gave me a group ug. Callie was right, I wasn't alone, and having my closest friends comforting me helped a bit. As soon as they let me go, Kelsey, Diana, Natalie, and Lisa also came to ug me. I had to admit, this felt nice. As we broke apart, they gave me smiles of sympathy and went to their respective tables. Jasper put Sam into his high chair, and the kitchen omegas along with Mr. and Mrs. Williams were setting all of the tables for dinner. I was happy to see that my place setting already had some steak and potatoes waiting for me, and I could feel my mouth start to water. The moment I sat down in my seat, something suddenly crkl Thornwood down on top of the table. Ah! Melody and Michelle screamed while Milan and I jumped back. We then heard more crkl Thornwooding sounds and the screams of other pack members. What? Ah! I could hear people shouting and cursing left and right. Jasper! I called out to him as he picked up Sam, who had started to cry because of the horrific sight before us. Jason and Milan picked up their twins while Kendrick grabbed Leanne, and Angelo took Nikolai. Everyone pooled out of the dining room as the pups and young children were crying and screaming in fear. Everyone, get your pups and head for the bunkers," Jasper commanded. Everyone scrambled about trying to get to the bunkers. "Sarin, take Sam and go with my mom." "But..." "No buts, Sarin. Just do as I say, please," he begged as he handed Sam to me, who was still crying murder. I didn't want to argue, especially considering what just happened in the dining room. I took Sam, and I followed everyone to the bunkers. "Whose spot was that?" Michelle asked as she was trying to console Nikolai. "I have no idea, but whatever that was and whoever did it, they're obviously trying to send a message," I answered. "Did you guys recognize the one that landed on the guard's table?" Melody asked, clearly still shaken up. We all nodded our heads, except for Michelle. She apparently didn't notice. "Sarin, what the hell was that?" Kelsey asked me as she was holding her baby girl, who was bawling just like the rest of the young pups. I was just glad that the infants and toddlers wouldn't remember that. I felt horrible for the older ones who have now been scarred for life. I looked at her as I held Sam close to me. Dark magic. Jasper's POV. After we managed to get all of the Castle Pack members safely inside of the bunkers, I went back into the dining room for further investigation along with Kendrick, Jason, and the top guards of the pack. "Holy SHT, Kendrick gasped. "Whose spot would something like this?" Jason muttered as he surveyed the room. "I can think of only one person that would be this sick," I answered. Everyone turned back to me. "Kellen Patterson," we all agreed in unison. "Alpha, I think I know who this is," Owen reported as he inspected the body that had landed on their table. "Yeah, I think I do too," Angelo confirmed while looking at it, or, rather, her. She was face down on the table, but Angelo lifted the back of the shirt she was wearing. Sure enough, there were scars all over. "What the?" Keaton said as he walked over. I was certain he recognized his own handiwork. "Is that?" "Yes, young Beta, I believe that this is Andrea West," Owen answered. "If that's Andrea, then that would make this Daryl on our table," Jason asserted. I looked over and, sure enough, it was. He, too, was face down, but his clothes were the exact same ones he had worn to my office earlier today. "Then I guess that this one would be Ada West, Andrea's mom," Maddox announced as he checked out the body that landed on the lower Omega's table. "How spot did they get into the dining room like this?" Hugo asked. "How else, man? It has to be black magic," Darius answered. "That would mean Kellen Patterson has ties to a dark witch," Jason responded. "Are you that surprised?" I asked him. He shook his head no. Why would he kill his own mole? Kendrick wondered, assessing the damage to the dining room. "One of two reasons. West was stupid and gave himself away as a double agent, or Kellen is just that inged up in the head that he killed him for the sake of killing him. And, since he killed West, there would be no reason to keep his mate or daughter alive," I replied. I shook my head in disgust. Kellen had to go, and he had to go now. "Let's clean this up. I'm quite sure the young ones are all traumatized and will be having nightmares for the rest of their lives." "Young ones? I'm going to be having nightmares for the rest of my life," Kendrick whined. "Dead bodies just dropped out of thin air onto our dining tables. How is no one else freaked out about this?" We're just not whining the way you are," Keaton shouted at him. Kendrick growled at his little brother while the rest of us tried to contain our laughter. I shook my head and had the guys clean up everything. Albeit released or banished, at one point these three were pack members, so we were going to bury them on pack lands like any other pack member. The guards took over cleaning the dining room and throwing everything away while getting the damage report taken care of. The other ranked members and I took care of the bodies. We had Dr. Andrews bring us body bags, and we put them in as gently and respectfully as possible. Dr. Andrews provided us with 3 gurneys so we could wheel them out more easily. It wasn't necessary to do an autopsy on any of them since Dr. Andrews was able to determine the cause of death just by looking at them. Andrea and her mom were shot in the heart with silver bullets while Daryl's windpipe was snapped, dying from traumatic asphyxiation. I felt remorseful, knowing that Sarin and my decision to have West spy for us may have gotten him killed. But I also felt as though he signed his own death warrant by turning his back on us and working for Patterson. Leveraged or not, West made his choice, and a choice like that had consequences. I hope you're not feeling guilty or responsible for what happened to him and his family, Jasper, Jason told me, almost as if he could read my mind. A little, but I also know he made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. Kellen Patterson is a disease, and who knows how many more people he's killed already. Jason nodded and was about to say something when my phone rang. Hello. Jasper, it's Richard. I need to speak with you, it's urgent. Richard, I'm kind of dealing with something here, can it wait until tomorrow? Does your situation have to do with dead bodies dropping out of the sky? I snapped my head up and looked at Jason, whose eyes were wide with shock. Richard, how did you? Because it just happened to us here at Golden Moon. We were in the dining hall getting ready for dinner when 4 bodies of recently banished pack members appeared out of thin air. One of the bodies was also a current pack member by the name of Thornton. He's Lorelai's and Damon's father. What? Their father? Yes, we believe that he was the mole that has been working for Kellen. He went missing a week ago, and his family has been under the impression that he went off on some kind of business trip. They're devastated and angry, as you can imagine. Richard, you need to keep Lorelai, Damon, and their mother under guard. Daryl West and his family were the victims here. Their daughter was banished for attempted murder, and I released West and his maid to go find her. They've been in hiding, and West was a mole for Patterson as well. We think that Kellen is leveraging their family's safety as a way to get them to work for him. If they die, then their family dies too. I understand, Jasper. I will make sure that they're placed into protective custody. Richard, we need to gather the alphas of all neighboring territories. According to West, Kellen had moles from every pack. There's no telling how many people he's killed, or how many packs he's going to send bodies to. Jasper, didn't you say that West said something about an alphas meeting coming up? Jason asked me. Richard, 1 second. I placed my palm over the receiver. What? West, you said that he told you that Patterson was planning something for the next alphas meeting or something like that, Jason replied. Yeah, your point. Jasper, he's saying what if this is a ruse to get you and the other alphas to call your own meeting? You said so yourself, that there's no official meeting until next year, Kendrick replied. For once, Kendrick made sense. My point exactly. What if Patterson wants all of the alphas to have an emergency meeting at one centralized location out of fear? Then he could strike, and Sarin's vision could still come true, Jason responded. Hearing what they just said, I realized that they were 100% right. This was definitely a trap. Richard, change of plans. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.